What's up, YouTube? So in this segment of First Take, they're going over Tom Brady and Bill Belichick's their legacy and whether or not they win this Super Bowl. So this will be their 9th Super Bowl. In Super Bowls, they are 5-3. Let's see what they have to say about their legacy.
This game for the Belichick-Brady dynasty.
It's huge, and it's much bigger than I first realized. You know, and this happens a lot because you have 2 weeks leading up to the Super Bowl, and we're all thinking in the media, how do you talk about the game? Because we talk about it every day. But the more I looked at it, the more I see the enormity of the impact of this game on the legacy of Brady and Belichick. My first thought was, this is all gravy for them. They got to another Super Bowl. Tom Brady's 100 years old. They got to another Super Bowl. They're not...
So now Max is calling him 100 years old, but he was supposed to fall off when he was 40, but he's back at the Super Bowl again. Continue on, Max.
Most talented team in the league. The defense looked slow. They got to another Super Bowl. Anything that happens, it's all upside, right? They could lose. It's no big. No, I thought about it some more. Guys, and there was an article on ESPN.com about this yesterday, and I'd mentioned this a couple days ago. Guys, they could just as easily, this is their 9th Super Bowl, right? They could just as easily be 0-8 or 8-0 in those Super Bowls. They're all decided by like a field goal, by like a score. All of them. One thing goes this way or that way, they could have been undefeated or winless. That's the way it goes.
Max, that could be, you're talking about hypotheticals. That can go with anything. So Joe Montana's 4-0 in Super Bowls. He could just as easily be 0-4. LeBron James is 3-6. He could just as easily be 6-3. Michael Jordan is 6-0. He can just as easily be 0-6. You're talking about hypotheticals. You want to talk about the Buffalo Bills? The Buffalo Bills are 0-4. They could just as easily be 4-0. You're talking about hypotheticals. You know, it could be just as easily Tom Brady was never born. Bill Belichick could never been born. Let's talk about the facts that we know and move forward. Talk about this Super Bowl. Not hypotheticals, but continue on, Max. Let's see what you have to say.
It's that close when it comes down to it. What are they actually right now? 5-3. Now think about this whole era with Brady and Belichick. This entire dynasty, the greatest by far in the history of football. When you think about parity, how long it's been in the league now, how long it's been going on, and what they've accomplished. Think about this. They're 6-3 in this run. They win twice as many Super Bowls as they lose. It's not just that they always get there, they always win. Versus, they're 5-4 in this run. That's like almost 500. And with every game could have gone either way, especially if they lose this one, you go, okay, they got there a lot, but let's not pretend that the record in those games don't matter. I know it's only one game, but that's a big swing game. It really is. For the history books, it just is. We think about the Buffalo Bills. I know they didn't win it all in that stretch, but they went to 4 straight Super Bowls. It's amazing, right? But they're not considered among the very greatest teams of all time.
Max, they're not considered one of the greatest teams of all time, but you definitely have to give them credit. If you go to the Super Bowl 4 years in a row, 4 years in a row. And that was right around the dynasties of the 49ers in Montana. That was right around the start of the dynasties of the Dallas Cowboys, Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin, all those guys. That was right around that time period. If you go to the Super Bowl 4 years in a row, you have to be considered a great dynasty type team. You have to be. But continue on, Max.
We think about Stephen A. We're arguing about Magic Johnson. That's his record in the finals, 5-4. And Magic's one of the greatest of all time. But is he Jordan? If Magic would have gone even 6-3 or something like that in those finals, his case would be better. Jordan's 6-0. The way you perform in the big game, your actual record in the end does mean something in these kind of stupid debates over who's the greatest of all time, like for the next 100 years. It's a huge game.
That is utterly ridiculous. Let me tell you something. First of all, I'm tired of you bringing up, I'm not going to belabor the point about Magic Johnson and Michael Jordan, because even when Magic Johnson was winning championships and Jordan hadn't won a championship yet, he still wasn't Jordan. So let's scratch that out. That has nothing to do with the price of tea in China. Now let's get to the football situation. When we talk about the New England Patriots and we talk about their legacy, you're talking about 5 Super Bowl championships. Oh, how did they win? Adam Vinatieri field goal here, a late touchdown pass by Tom Tom Brady or whatever the case may be. At the end of the day, when you look at the history of the New England Patriots, you count them 5 Super Bowl appearances. You count them 5 Super Bowl championships. You count them 8 Super Bowl appearances. And oh, by the way, let me tell you why, Max Kellerman, you of all people do not get to sit up there and say, oh, please, they just got here. What's the big deal? Who was raving about the Los Angeles Chargers throughout this season? That would be you. Who was raving about Phillip Rivers and Joey Bosa and Ingram and those boys? That would be you. Oh, by the way, we all conceded that Patrick Mahomes was big time, and Patrick Mahomes is going to be league MVP, and Patrick Mahomes is on another level. Even after they lost Kareem Hunt, the game was at Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City, in cold weather in the snow. Not that that affects New England because they live in Foxborough. But the point that I'm trying to make to you is that we don't get to engage in revisionist history now and say, oh, beating the Chargers and beating the Chiefs amounts to nothing. They were supposed to be here. I'll concede that if we're talking about them in the AFC East, because we all know that the Buffalo Bills, the New York Jets, and the Miami Dolphins are allergic to prosperity. We get that part. But in terms of the rest of the AFC playoff picture, the road to the Super Bowl was against the Chargers, who they ramrodded and bum rushed, and against the Kansas City Chiefs, who they showed up and handled their business and never gave the ball to in overtime to Patrick Mahomes. So all I'm saying.
And everybody knows, especially the people in San Diego, that the Chargers are good to choke. Phillip Rivers is Phillip Givers because he's good to give up a pick to somebody. The Chargers just can't get out of their own way. And you want to talk about Kansas City, Mahomes did a great job in that AFC Championship game where he had 3 touchdowns and no picks, but he was going against possibly the GOAT in Tom Brady, who put it down when he had to. The big dog didn't let the little dog get to him.
Is when you look at the New England Patriots and you see what they have done, the fact that this is going to potentially taint their legacy. Please don't get me wrong.
Not taint. Not taint. It's not about taint. It's about you're being compared to the greatest of all time.
All right.
How's history going to look at you?
What I'm saying to you is history is going to look at them as 5-time Super Bowl champions. We'll count the loss against them because a Super Bowl loss is a Super Bowl loss. But it's not like we're going to look at Brady and Belichick any differently.
No, well, exactly. No.
We're not going to do that.
It's not that we are going to diminish them. It's that they will not, this win will either elevate them or lower them a little bit.
I got news for you.
Either they win or they lose.
Most people are expecting the Rams to lose this game.
Right. The Patriots are the...
I mean, really, when you've gone to 9 Super Bowls, your 9th one, it's just really kind of just another notch in the belt loop of Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. Whether they win in large fashion or they get beat in large fashion, it's just another Super Bowl that you can talk about. They've had other great Super Bowls and they've had bad Super Bowls. This should just go on the scale of good or bad of the 9 Super Bowls that they've been to, Max.
Favorites, even more reason they need to win
the
game. Even more
If
pressure.
they win, they still ain't gonna be.
I'm gonna take your examples one at a time. The Chargers. The Chargers are a franchise that traditionally choke. I was hoping they wouldn't. I wanted to see a good game. They choked.
You didn't hope. You proclaimed.
That's right. They choked. They got out-coached and outplayed. They were bad. The Chiefs beat the Patriots, and the win was taken away on a pre-snap penalty, a neutral zone infraction, which is, the game was over. The game was over.
Come on, Max, you are really reaching. But did Tom Brady win the game? But did he win the game? Is he at the Super Bowl right now? Is Mahomes at the Super Bowl or is Tom Brady at the Super Bowl? But did he win, Max? Did he win the game?
Tom Brady threw a bad pass to Gronk. It was way too high. Gronk couldn't handle it. Into the hands of the defense. 4-point win for the Chiefs. Game over, like 50 seconds left.
But did they win, Max? Did they win the game? Did they win the game?
The game over, taken away. Even before that, drive was about to stall. Well, you really don't know if it was about to stall, but they were facing 2nd or 3rd and long, and they get a roughing the passer penalty because Brady, with the ball, gets a hand on his chest. Stop. So, but nevertheless, here they are. That is true. Joe Montana, 4-0 in the Super Bowl. Your actual record in the big game matters. The reason Joe Montana and Jim Kelly are viewed so differently is their record in the Super Bowl.
Time out. Is Tom Brady in your eyes the GOAT, yes or no?
Yes.
If he loses this Super Bowl, will he still be the GOAT?
Yes.
That ends all discussion right there, Max. You call Tom Brady the GOAT, that ends all discussions. Everything else is mute.
End of discussion.
No, but
Let's move on. Let's move on.
Yes.
He won it years ago, and he will be which means that whether lose, win, or draw, lose, or draw, he's not going to change.
You're focusing on Tom Brady. I'm saying Brady, Belichick, and this entire Patriots era.
Now, did you not call Belichick the greatest coach ever?
The point is,
does that not change?
This dynasty would go from, not only did they almost like half the time make the Super Bowl and they won most of the time they got there, that goes to half the time made the Super Bowl and it was a toss.